Okay, so for the Android Studio and Firebase mobile app, we are going to create this. I'm creating this tutorial. And first step is to install Android Studio. So I can search for Android Studio in Google. I can click on install Android Studio. I can click on download the latest version of Android Studio. It should automatically detect your operating system. I'm on a Mac, so it should automatically detect that I'm on a Mac, and it should download the DMG file. I've already downloaded the DMG file right here, android-studio-ide mac.dmg. If you're on a Windows, it should automatically detect you're on a Windows. So it shows me for 4.2.1 for Mac. I've already downloaded this file. This is the one right here. So I'm going to run this DMG file. If you're on Windows machine, then you should follow the steps to install Android Studio on Windows. Should be very easy. That should be something that we do not need to make a tutorial on. Installing Android Studio should be plain enough, simple enough. I'm going to move the DMG file to the applications to continue this copying the Android Studio to applications. So this should take about a minute. This is pretty large file, 1.81 gigabytes. So it's not a small file. Installing Android Studio. And now that should be completed. Now we should be able to access that from the Launchpad. So if I search for Android Studio, you can click on it, open it up. Android Studio is an application down from internet. Are you sure you want to open it? Open. So the configure installation folder should be I don't think that is the configure installation home, but we can just select do not import settings. We can look up where Android Studio is installed. Where is config installation folder for Android Studio on Mac? So on the Mac, it is in library application support Google Android Studio. Let's open terminal. Okay, so we are in the library folder, and this is the users Quack 2189 library. In this folder, let's go to let's see if there's something called application support. Okay, there's a lot of files, but we're looking for a folder application. The folder that starts with application. Looks like there's only one folder. We are in the application scripts folder. See if anything on Android Studio. Not in this folder. It might be in the Google folder. Google. CD Google. Google software update. like it's in the Google folder. Application support. There we are. That's the folder we want to enter. Application support. Okay. Application support. CD application support. Okay. Now inside application support, we want to enter Android Studio. Nothing called Android Studio in this folder. Let's see. Maybe inside Google. Yeah, there we are. So it's inside Google. Then inside there, I go into Android Studio 4.2. Okay, so this is my folder where Android is installed. Copy. Let's go to Android Studio. This is the folder. I found it. It's the users folder. Then in users, my username Quack2189. In that, the library folder. In that, application support folder. Inside that, Google folder. Inside that, Android Studio 4.2. There we go. You have selected current Android Studio config folder or installation home. That's the one I want. Okay. Okay, so actually it looks like if we select the folder that it is a current folder, so then we actually do not need to select that folder at all. We can just select do not import settings. So I think this step is to use another folder to or another installation folder to import settings from. But if we already have that, as we just installed Android Studio, we do not need to import settings. Let's just start Android Studio with the current, with no importing of any settings. So we can use the standard, and if we need to install anything, we can. Okay, so now it's going to start downloading some more components. So like I did show you where the installation directory is for Android Studio if you're installing it on a Mac. If you're doing it on Windows, then I already have created the tutorial for installing Android Studio on Windows. And that's the one I showed in class. And yeah, so what I did want to mention is that, yeah, so we do not need to import settings because when I did find the folder where Android Studio is installed, and I can use that as this folder for importing the settings from, but that's going to happen automatically. So it doesn't, that's why it doesn't accept that, because it knows that that's the folder that was for the installation of the Android Studio that's currently installed, and is going to import the settings from that anyway by default. So that's why it we do not we cannot expressly mention that same folder and import settings from there, because that's the default folder from where it's going to import the settings anyway. That's why we just select do not import settings, and that will suffice, because it's going to import the settings from the folder we were trying to specify. It's going to import settings from there automatically, because that's the installation folder anyway. So bottom line, main point, crux of everything, just you can select do not import settings, because it's going to import the settings from the installation directory, installation folder. Yeah. So let me pause this recording because this is going to take a lot of time. So I just wanted to show you that the downloading components is still continuing, but I was pausing the recording because this is going to take some time. That's why I'm pausing the recording. So one thing came up in the Android Studio installation. I need to enter my username and password. So make sure that you log in. If you're doing it on a Mac, make sure you log in through your root account so that you can install everything. So I'm going to have to give permission again to enter my username password or root or admin username password. So I need to allow this software from developer Intel Corporation apps. Now it's allowing it and running the Intel Corporation HAXM installer. So this is gonna again continue. Installation will take some time to finish for finishing all the downloading components. So I'm gonna pause the recording. Okay, so in this downloading of components, finally you can see it's all completed. Okay, finish. Now we have successfully installed Android Studio. We also need to log into Firebase. So let's search for Firebase. Click on firebase.google.com. Let's get started. And we need to, I think I'm already signed in as with my Google account. Okay, so this is the project from last year when I created this project from last year. We can also go to the documentation, Firebase documentation, and now here in the documentation, we see in the overview, this is the overview page that we are on right now. We can view documentation to build apps. Um, there's guides, also code labs, which are guided tutorials. So a lot of good material online. And Code Lab has tutorials for showing how to connect an app in an iOS app, Android app, or web app with Firebase. Fundamentals, we can click on Add Firebase, and we are doing it with Android Studio. So this shows how to add Firebase to your Android project. First, we need to install or update Android Studio. We've completed that. So in this tutorial, I will be showing you how to connect our Android Studio application with Firebase. First, we can click on Create New Project. Second, you can choose an empty activity. Now we can provide the name for our application. So we can call it Firebase Connection Demonstration. Okay. Let's make it even shorter than the one I had kept in the previous time. So Firebase CD, Firebase CD, and this is the location. It will be in users Quack 2189 Android Studio projects. Firebase CD language will be Kotlin, and Kotlin is the new language for Android Studio programming, and is the programming language used for the code generation in Android Studio. Okay. Actually, we can use either Kotlin or Java. So I just was realizing that most of my code will be in Java. So let's choose Java here. So if name is Firebase CD, package name, save location, language I've selected again. Language I've selected is Java. And let's add the use legacy Android.support libraries. So well, if I select use legacy Android.support libraries, that prevents me from using the latest Play services and Jetpack libraries. Okay, let's not click this right now. If we need to, we can come back and we can add support for Android previous legacy support library, add support for previous Android or legacy Android libraries. But for now, let's just continue like this, finish. And now it's prepared the workspace. So it takes some time for the Gradle build to load everything. This is the documentation. This is the assistant. This is the main coding area. This on the left is the directory. So it's still loading everything. So we can see this running right here. You can ignore this Xcode. This is a this was if I restarted the machine, this would disappear. So the Gradle here it's configuring the projects, downloading bunch of jar files. So we can see all of these background tasks. Okay. Now we can see the directories on the left. We can see the code on the in the middle here, documentation on the right. It's updating indices. Studio performance could be improved. I do not want to restart it because then I'll have to restart my screen recording. Increasing from heap size from 128 1280 MB to 2048 MB could make the IDE perform better based on the available memory. Yeah, that definitely could make it better. Configure, but this might require me to restart the machine, so I'm going to avoid that. Okay, so it looks like the background tasks have completed. Okay. So first thing we need to do is go to Tools, click on Firebase. Now it will open up the Firebase documentation on the right here. It will load up the assistant content for Firebase on the right here. Now once we have the Firebase assistant open, we can click on Analytics, Login Analytics event. Now here we see the steps, how to connect to Firebase, add analytics, log events, etc. So first step we need to click on is connect to Firebase. Okay. Could not parse the Android application modules, grade config, resolve Gradle build issues and or resync. Okay, let's try restarting it, because we did install a lot of things, so maybe restarting it will help. Okay, let's go to Tools, Firebase. It's loading the assistant content. Go on Analytics. Connect to Firebase. Okay, let me try to figure this out. So in Android Studio, what we can do is we can change the Android Gradle plugin version to 4.1.3 and Gradle version to 6.5. Click on Apply, click OK. Now let's see if now it's saying Gradle project sync in progress. So once that project sync is completed, Then I'll try to connect to Firebase again and see if that issue gets solved or if I still get that issue. So it's doing all the Gradle downloads again. So what we just did, we went to File, we went to Project Structure. Oh, it's right now the sync is happening. The Gradle build sync is happening. So that's why we are not able to edit the project structure. But in project structure, I went and selected older versions because with older versions, the advantage is that they are more stable. Maybe the newest version that it was trying with had some issues. So I just selected an older stable version. Android Cradle plugins ready to update. Maybe I also need to do an update. So what I did is I went to File, went to Project Structure, and selected Android Gradle plugin version 4.1.3 because that's an older, more stable version, and Gradle version selected 6.5. Again, older, more stable version. There's later versions, but this older version is a more stable version because it's older. So we selected some older, more stable versions and then clicked apply and then clicked OK. Then the Gradle build sync occurred. Now let's try connecting to Firebase. Okay, your application needs to be built before connecting to Firebase. Now I click on build. At least that error that was coming up previously, that's fixed. So fix that error. We have successfully solved that issue. So now the Gradle build is running again. Okay, click on connect to Firebase. It opens up the Firebase console here. Okay. So what we are going to do is we're going to add a new project and we can call it Firebase CD. Continue. Google Analytics, we enable them. Click continue. Location US, use default settings, accept the terms, create project. Now it's creating the project in Firebase. Provisioning resources. Finishing up. Your new project is now ready. Click continue. Okay, your Firebase Android app has been created in Firebase. So now it's ready for you to connect your Android Studio project. Click connect. Your Android Studio project is connected to your Firebase Android app. You can now use Firebase in your project. Go back to Android Studio to start using one of the Firebase SDKs. So now we are successfully connected. The Android Studio project is successfully connected to the Firebase. So the Android Studio, the application we are making in Android Studio, is successfully connected to Firebase. Now let's go back to Android Studio. So now you can see the green tick here, which means that we are successfully connected. And it's showing in green letter, which means the connection to Firebase is successful. So let's say you logged out of Firebase or you close that window. You can go back to that, search Firebase, click on firebase.google.com, then go to console, click on go to console, and you see the Firebase CD. This is our application. Click on that. This is the project. So we're back into our Firebase CD project. First, we want to set up authentication in our mobile app through email and password. So let's go to authentication here in our project on Firebase. So we need to enable email login. So let's get started with authentication. And we will click on, you can see several tabs here, users, sign in method, templates, usage. Let's go to sign in method tab, select email, password, and then click on enable because we want to enable the authentication through email and password. So this now, because this is enabled, now it will allow users to sign up using their email address and password. And the SDKs will provide email address verification, password recovery, email address change primitives, etc. But we do not want passwordless sign in. No, we want email and password because that's more secure. And then click save. Now we have enabled email password authentication with Firebase. In our Android Studio project, we need to go to the activity main.xml file, and you can see we can look at the code, we can look at the design, the user interface, the app interface, or we can look at both of them. And what we want to do is we want to add, let's make this a bit less, okay, reduce this a little bit so we have more space for our design and the coding. Okay, so what we want to do is add two buttons here. You can zoom in a little bit here. Okay, we want to add two buttons. So what I did, I just did a quick search on Google for code to create button on Android, and you can see we come up with this documentation in Android Studio on how to create a button using the button class. So I just copied this code right here, and I'm going to edit it. I'm going to put it in Android Studio right here in my activity underscore main.xml file, but I'm going to edit it also. So this is going to be creating this button. I'm going to delete this text view. I do not need this text view. Okay. I'm going to paste a second button. So I want to create two buttons. Let me do it one by one. Okay, so the first button, I can position it. That's my first button. This one right here. And I can change the text to be login. Let me further edit this. Let's bring it to the center. Need to further edit it. Okay, so this is how I have typed up my code for the buttons. So the first line indicates that I'm starting the creation of a button here. I'm defining the ID, which is used later on to refer to this button. The ID is being defined, and this is add plus ID slash register. That's what is used to define the ID for this button. The layout width I have set to match the parent being the screen or the page or the view that it's on. So it's going to match the size of that. And the layout height is set to wrap content. And the Android text is going to say register. That's why we see the text register here. So I can move this up or down, and that will update the code accordingly. You can see right here. I can update the code. And then the second button, so the location in X and Y gets updated based on that. The location in X is 0 because it's always going to be centered in the x-axis. This is the so x is going this way, x-axis. So these buttons are centered at 0 in the x-axis, but they are moving. You can move them up or down in the y-axis. So absolute y position we can update. The second button, we start the button creation, set the ID to add plus using the string add plus ID slash login. Layout width is set to match the parent, again same width as the parent, and the height is also wrapping the content. So the height and width are defined, and then layout underscore below, we're defining that we want this one to be below the register button, and the text is being set to login. So we see the text here, login. Layout editor absolute x, we can move this up or down. It will be stay 0, but then the absolute y position does change if we move this button up or down. So those are the two buttons we have created. Now that we have implemented the buttons in the activity underscore main.xml, we also need to define them in the main activity.java, the class main activity. We need to define the variables private button register. The first button is register, second button is login. So one important thing we do need to add is this line right here, import android.widget.button, because we're using the button class. So that's why we need to add this line, import android.widget.button. And then the under the red line or the red text disappears, and this becomes a regular text. Now it's now there's no error or no problem. It's being understood. So now we are able to create these the register and login buttons inside our class main activity. Now we need to uh, define register is equal to find view by ID or dot ID dot register. So in our Android Studio, the reason we're getting this error is because this line of code should be in a function. So let's move this um, bracket right here. So now our register, now that code is going to work. Now no errors, no problem. So the same way that we typed in the line for the register button, same way we need to just type in the line for the login button. Login is equal to find view by ID r.id.login. So I just have to keep looking at my notes that I have prepared. So that's why I have to keep pausing the tutorial video screen recording. That's the purpose. That's the only reason I have to pause the screen recording um, every few seconds so that I can look at my notes and not waste time recording the screen while it's idle. So yeah, so like we have done for the register, we just do the same thing for the login button. Login is equal to find view by ID or id.id.login, because this ID is what provides us the identity for that button, and using that we assign that to the register and login um, that were just created inside this class as of type button. So what we want to do next is we want to create a new activity. Go to File, New Activity, Empty Activity. Okay. So when we clicked on File, New Activity, Empty Activity, that opens up this page where we can select the name for our activity. I've given it the name Register Activity, and click on Generate a Layout File, layout name activity underscore register, and the package name should be automatically com.example.firebase. Source language is Java. Click Finish. Now this creates this new register activity.java file. Next, the same way we created register activity, let's go to file, new activity, and create another empty activity. And this is for the login button, so we can call it login activity. Generate a layout file, activity name activity underscore login, package name com.example.firebase, source language Java. Click Finish. Now it creates the login activity.java file. Now in the main activity.java file, we will need to set up the, whenever the register button is clicked, we want the register activity.java file to run. So let's set this up. Register button, we need to set up a on click listener, and whenever it listens for a click, and whenever that register button will be clicked, upon its click, we want the register activity.java file code to run. This should be autocomplete. So let me see how to get it autocomplete. There we go. There we go. Now, once we typed in this public void on click view, now this is make now this now Android Studio is understanding our code. So register dot set on click listener new in parentheses new view dot on click listener open parentheses close parentheses start the curly braces at override public void on click in parentheses view v close parentheses now curly bracket. Now here now we are basically defining our register button to listen for clicks, and we're setting up this on click listener to execute this code whenever that register button is clicked. And now we are going to be overriding this function, and we're going to be running some code in the on click function in the view. Now I've entered 3 lines of code. First line is this one right here. I need to import android.widget.edit text. Next line is right here. I need to create the email variable of type edit text, which is a private variable inside this class. And third is right here. Inside the onClick function, I have my code line of code here, string text underscore email equal to email dot get text dot to string. So now this, which would previously show up as red if this was not defined, or if this line was not inserted, now it's showing as being understood by Android Studio. So what we're doing here is we're importing the library that allows us to use the edit text data type, which is a user interface element for entering and modifying text. And then we create, using that data type edit text, we create a variable, private variable email inside our class. And then that edit text data type has a method get text. So we're basically getting the text that will be entered by the user when they will be registering their email or logging in with their email. So yeah, in this case, it's registering. So when they'll be registering with their email, we're going to get the text from that email that they entered, and we're going to convert it to a string. So we're going to get the text from the email field and convert it to a string and assign it to the variable text underscore email, which we have defined to be a string right here inside this function. Same thing we can do for the password. So we are creating a new variable of data type string inside this public void on click function, and we are uh, taking from the password field, we're getting the text, and then we're going to convert that to a string. Okay, now we need to define the password right here. So private edit text password. Now that will be showing up as being accepted. So we have created our new private variable password inside this main activity class of data type edit text, and that allows us to run the get text method of the edit text data type for the password variable, which is of the same edit text data type. We run the get text variable, get the text field, and then convert that to a string from the password, and we save that to the text password variable of data type string inside this on click function. So what we're doing first is we need to check I mean, not doing first, but what we need to do after creating these two strings, text, email, text, password, we need to check if they're empty. We need to use the text utils function, text utils class for that. So we need to import it. Import android.text.text utils. Now we can use text utils, and there is empty function in the text utils. So text, we're going to check if text underscore email is empty or if text underscore password is empty. So make sure to provide the two bars which indicate the or here. So text if parentheses text utils dot is empty in parentheses text underscore email close parentheses two bars to indicate or, then again text utils dot is empty parentheses text underscore password in parentheses close parentheses, then close the parentheses for this if statement. And if they are empty, then we want to run some lines of code here inside the if statement. Okay, so we're going to be creating a toast. And if you have questions about what is a toast, you can look in the documentation on Android, developer.android.com. A toast is simply a pop-up. And that pop-up, it's like a feedback about an operation that's ongoing. And you can use the make text method inside the toast. So this is what we are doing right here. We're making text inside the toast, which is toast again, remember, is just a pop-up. And register activity dot this is the first input argument. Then toast dot length underscore short is the third argument. We want to make that text and then we want to show it. So we are using a toast, which is like a pop-up. We are using the make text method of that toast, make text method of that toast. And our context is register activity dot this. So register activity is the uh, context, and the third input is toast.length underscore short dot show. We are going to show it. So let me explain this line a bit further. Toast is a pop-up. We're using the make text method of that toast, and the context is register activity dot this, and the displayed text will be empty credential. We want to display to the user if the text password or text email fields are empty, we want to show them in a pop-up that the credentials they entered were empty. So that's what we're going to show them in the pop-up. And we want to keep the length short, so the toast is going to be of a short length. Basically, that's what we are defining in the third input right here. If you look in the make text method, let's look on the make text method. The three inputs are defined: context, text, and duration. So we have selected the context. It's the application or the activity. That's in our case register activity dot this. The text to be displayed, the text to be shown, is the second input, and the third input is the duration. And we want it to be length short, which means we want it to show for a short period of time, not for too long. So we can display for a short period of time or for a long period of time. So we have chosen to display it for a short period of time. The credentials, empty credential, this is the text that will be displayed, and the context is register activity dot this. Now we've also added an else if statement right here. So what we are checking for in the else if statement is if the text password length is less than 6 characters, because we do not want the user to select a password that is too short. We want the user's password to be 6 characters or longer. You can make this 8 or 7 or whatever you want, but 6 passwords shorter than 6 are too short. They're not strong enough. So we are checking the password length right here. If it's less than 6, we want to use the toast again, the pop-up, use the make text method of that toast pop-up, and then the context is the same, and the text this time that will be displayed will be password too short. And again, we want it to be displayed only for a short amount of time, and then we want to show that text in this pop-up. Now what we want to do is we have created a third else. So if statement, then else if statement, then else statement. So if the text field, the email and password fields are not empty, and if the password length is not too short, then we enter the else statement, and then we allow the user to be registered. So we will be creating a new function. That's why this is showing as red right now, because we will be creating a new function called register user. So in which we will provide the inputs text, email, and text password. So now these are our two inputs. Now uh, we can click on this right here, create a method register user, and we're going to create that in main activity. So now it's going to create a new function. It's showing this right here. It's been added. Now we can add some text to this new function, register user. So one thing I need to do, actually, this all needed to be part of this should all be in the register activity.java file, not in the main activity.java. So let me delete all of this. I was supposed to do this in the register activity.java file. So this code is, I'm deleting the code that is duplicate or occurring twice. You can see this code is already right here. This should be activity underscore register. Okay. Now you can see register activity.this does not have a red line under it. But this one, I think, this is for the if else statements. This is for the on click function. This is for the set on click listener function. This is for the on create function. To enter a semicolon right here. Also close parentheses. There we go. This is closing the parentheses from right here. We are registering we are setting the on click listener for the register button, and now everything seems to be work. There doesn't seem to be any red underlines, so it's looking good. We'll come back to the main activity.java. I'll fix this later, but first let's finish this registerActivity.java file. Okay. So this register user method was created when this was showing as red. We right clicked on it and then selected create this method in the registerActivity.this. Now we can change this to just email and password because we are creating new function here called register user, and we are defining the inputs as type strings. So the first input is email, second input or second argument is password. And we can just to keep consistency with other variables, we can keep them lowercase. And now we will also need to create the Firebase authentication variable. For creating the Firebase authentication, you want to make sure to import com.google.firebase.auth.firebase.auth. And then because it's showing as red, so then it will show a red bulb which you can click, and then click on import Firebase or create Firebase dependency. Click on that, and that will automatically run the Gradle sync. And now you can see that it's successfully showing as without any errors or without any red lines. So it's successfully imported Firebase auth. And we want to create, we don't actually, because we're in the registerActivity.java, we don't need the login button to be defined as a private variable in this registerActivity class. We need to create the Firebase auth variable. Another quick edit right here is we also needed the email. Remember the email variable here, private variable, find view by ID r.id.email, and we need to create the email later. We can delete the login one from here. The password also, find view by ID r.id.password. I will show you how to define these later. Let's leave them for now.